Hi, I'm Zibby Owens, and you're listening to Moms Don't Have Time to Read Books. This 30-minute podcast features a new author interviewed by me every single day, 365 days a year, for about 30 minutes. I am also the publisher for Zibby Books, which publishes 12 books a year in fiction and memoir. Our books are already out now. You can check it out on zibbybooks.com. And we have a magazine called Zibby Mag, where we have lots of wonderful essays and lifestyle features. That's at zibbymag.com. We have classes at zibbyclasses.com. And I recently opened a bookstore in LA called Zibby's Bookshop at 1113 Montana Avenue at 11th Street in Santa Monica. I hope that you are able to enjoy some of our other offerings. But this here podcast is the basis of all of it and started in 2018. And no matter what I do, this is basically my favorite thing. Enjoy. Julia Langbein is the author of American Mermaid, a novel. And by the way, I picked this for Zibby's Book Club, which if you are not a member of, you should join right this second, zibbysbookclub.com. And Julia will be joining us after we spend half an hour talking about her book. Then she will join for Q&A, which is how I do all the book club meetings. Again, that's zibbysbookclub.com. You can join the virtual club. We meet twice a month, but you can come and go as you please. And then there are many in-person chapters sprouting up. Anyway, Julia Langbein, a sketch and standup comedian for many years, holds a doctorate in art history and is the author of a nonfiction book about comic art criticism. She wrote the viral comedy blog The Bruni Digest, which reviewed New York Times critic Frank Bruni's restaurant reviews every week, and she has since written about food, art, and travel for Gourmet, Eater, Salon, Frieze, and other publications. A native of Chicago, she lives outside of Paris with her family. Welcome, Julia. Thanks so much for coming on Moms Don't Have Time to Read Books to discuss American Mermaid.
Thank you so much for having me.
I know I was just kind of raving about your book before we started, but I literally laughed out loud twice in the first 3 pages. Out loud, not even to myself, in my head.
That's what I want to hear. That makes me so happy. That's all I want in life is to hear that from people.
Oh my gosh, you're so funny. Wait, I wonder if it'll sound funny if I even read it. Wait, hold on. This was so funny. This whole thing with Danielle. By the way, I went to Yale, so I lived in New Haven and went to Union League Cafe. I literally lived in the building above that restaurant. So
lots of the sites.
Yes, I appreciated that. Thank you. Can I just read the soup and salad part? I know this is right in the beginning. I ordered the soup and salad combo because it was the cheapest thing on the menu. Plus, it seemed like a lot to me. 2 things. But when I ordered it, Danielle said, "Soup and salad? You sure that's enough? It's a pea and a fart. Get something substantial." It seemed like she knew more about my real hungers than I did, and that I should trust her knowledge of what would nourish me. "I'm getting the cassoulet," she said. "This has to get me back to New York." As if she'd be huffing it alongside the Metro North tracks on the metabolized steam of bean and duck.
This is a dream experience. Having someone read my text back to me so hard that they laughing so hard that they can't finish the sentence is all I've ever wanted.
It's so true. Oh my gosh. And then she talks about, I won't read that much more, I promise. Tonight we met at Danielle's stucco castle in Silver Lake. While she got ready, she gave me a goblet of Chardonnay and put me in front of a reality TV show about a 500-pound teenager who gets gastric bypass surgery. The laparoscopic camera tunneled through soft flows of yellow fat, searching for the teen's stomach. Danielle zapped off the TV on a shot of his body, naked, looking like the cushions of a beige leather sofa piled on a metal table. "I've seen this one," said Danielle. "He ends up hot." Her eyebrows danced up and down for a moment, and we laughed together. "You should track him down," I said, rolling with her suggestiveness. "They did a reunion show. He's dead. Pop the wine in the fridge. Let's scoot." Oh my God, you're so funny. You're so funny.
I'm so happy that you're willing to let yourself laugh and enjoy it, because I feel like, I don't know, sometimes people get a book that's really funny in their hands and they're like, what's wrong? Why, this shouldn't be so funny. What's wrong with me? Or that because there's also profoundness and depth and ideas in there that that's somehow incompatible with it being hilarious. But actually, for me, my favorite writers are the ones that give you something hilarious and then you laugh your way to something meaningful and something true. And but the comedy is so part of it. And I feel like some people that I've, gave early copies to or whatever were like, "Yeah, no, this is great. It's just I'm not sure why it's so funny." And it's just relax and laugh. It's okay. It's okay. It can just be funny. It's okay.
No, it's great to be funny. It's not just funny, but it happens to be really funny and clever. And it's almost, Catherine Newman's book, it's so funny, but it's really about hospice.
Exactly. Yeah.
There's humor in I don't know. I think anything funny is fabulous,
Absolutely.
but you're
Agreed.
so creative too with how you wrote the book. So the book is about a woman who writes a novel and then it gets sold as a screenplay essentially that she writes. But then in your novel, then you have her excerpts of her novel. It's so cool.
Yeah, you get to experience the novel and the adaptation. Yeah.
And I'm so glad because I often feel like when there's books about now, I'm always like, oh, you should like go write that novel. And people are like, haha, yeah, that'd be funny. And then like you did it. There it is. It's so great.
Well, the thing is, so you have this woman, Penelope, right, who she's a high school English teacher, and she wrote a novel. But what you don't learn is how the novel reflects, her past or past experiences. It has nothing to do with her past. She writes a novel, and then that novel that she wrote kind of explodes her into the future and explodes the future. And I really like that idea that books, not that they just like reflect their authors' biographies or their authors' past, but they are these things that we launch into the future and we can change our own lives with them and we can change other people's lives with them. And that's what's so fun about flipping between the made up and the real, if you will, in this book.
So cool. Maybe you should give it maybe I should ask like, what's your book about? So why don't you just...
I'm so bad at that. It's so hard. It's so there's a woman who wrote, she's a high school English teacher and she wrote a novel called American Mermaid. And when the book starts, it's just been a surprise hit. And she's been offered the chance to go out to Hollywood to work with these two male hacks, these two male screenwriters to turn the book into a screenplay. And it follows her adventures.
You described the guys in such a funny way. Like, what did you say? Like they have buns of steel from like, some workout. You're so much fun. I can't even remember. But the way you describe these two guys, like the twins who gossip like 16-year-old girls or something.
Yeah, they're like two teenage girl best friends. They spend all their time together.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
They have butts made of Core 10 shipbuilding steel.
Yes. That was so great. Oh my gosh. I love it. I'm sorry, I cut you off. Okay, keep talking about the book.
No, please. So anyway, yeah. So she's out there in LA and it's sort of a fish out of water story. So she's this really crunchy, like kind of liberal New Englander is out in LA and like everything she says accidentally sounds bitchy. She's like, there's like a kind of tonal disconnect in LA. But also she really grapples with ideas of like representation and the self and how to kind of hold on to yourself, but also get a foothold in a world of total economic precarity. And as an English, she really wants to just be an English teacher, but it is financially precarious. And so there's a dream of being a quote creative and getting a big paycheck out there. And the question is sort of how much of yourself are you willing to sell to have that kind of stability and to feel like you've made it?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. She's so funny about like when she's like standing in the aisle debating which shampoo to get at CVS. Like you have all
my life.
And then also, and this I feel like it's not a spoiler since it's early on, but she finds out early on that she's a carrier of the BRCA1 gene and needs to have the surgery. And you even say it in a funny way, like that somehow having to have elective mastectomy and then reconstruction to have the body parts you were born with is somehow like a privileged act of narcissism.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Like just to be your normal self, you've acted like some kind of snob or something. Yeah. And that just adds to her financial pressures. Like the fact that, she's in order to just take care of herself. And, like for so many of us, like basic kind of like one of the freakiest things about economic precarity is like healthcare and, the ability to kind of make sure things are going to be okay. So that's another detonation that sends her leaving this job that she loves out to LA. And so I used to teach, like not in high school, but at the university level. And I stopped teaching for a while just because I had a research fellowship. And I think a lot of the energy of this book came from like missing teaching actually, and missing being around, people in these formative years, people in a state of becoming who are like insurrectionists and a little bit, I think in the book, I talk about how her students, they never got anyone's name right. Like they never knew anybody. When they read literature, they read like a book by Edith Wharton and they just like can't get anyone's name right. But they immediately go to the deepest levels. They fully understand the emotional realities of the books that they read. And I just had all these memories of teaching these, undergraduates, people who are 18, 19, I was teaching art history, so we'd be looking at really complicated images or whatever. And they didn't really care whether it was a painting or a photograph. They'd be like, this photograph by Rembrandt, you're like, it's not a photograph. But they get it, but they would get really important things at the same time. So there's something about the way in a classroom setting, you get to know like the way that young minds are both confused and more right about the biggest things than we even can admit,
Oh my gosh. I also love her relationship with her dad and how he is enabling her to live. And she doesn't want that, but she needs that. And she's, you have the whole podcast. I don't know, like where she is talking all about her dad and she doesn't even realize it because she was kind of drunk on the podcast and all upset. But it is a really interesting dynamic, which of course is happening in families all over the place. When her sister has to call and be like, it's okay. Like, he's not evil. He's a Republican. It's he's not like a dictator. And we went to private school and it's okay. Like, you're alive and like, stop it.
Why are you so mad? Why are you so mad at our parents all the time? Like, they raised us, like, relax. But, that's like, I think a huge part of this book is, and something I'm interested in generally is like intergenerational conflict.
Yes.
Which is such a huge part of the way we live right now. There's so much anger at like our parents who were, I remember, I don't want to call my dad out, but like, he definitely was like not into quote tree huggers. And now I'm like, you guys, you literally ruined everything. Like, because you thought like being a tree hugger was like not worth your vote, so, I mean, there's a lot of economic anger, obviously, about like the economy and stuff like that. I mean, a lot of intergenerational anger about, the way the whole idea that COVID was ever called a boomer remover, right? Like these like horrible, right? There's still actually so much vitriol. So I mean, I kind of wanted to deal a little bit with both the like irrational love and support that can happen intergenerationally, like the way that these teenagers just come out of the woodwork and go to bat for this woman who's like half a generation older, but also the way that kind of like we are allowed to feel like insane rage for the people that we love and who love us,
I love the idea of this being so meta that now you're going to say something bad about your dad on this show.
No, God, Jesus.
You know what I mean? And now he's going to get mad.
No, I know. Why do you think I'm drinking sparkling water and not a margarita? Gotta keep this in check. Save the margarita for the therapist.
Oh my God, I love it.
Yeah, I know. I need to do one of those like pharmaceutical disclaimers about how I love everyone in my family and they're all perfect. Anyway,
I'll put it in the show notes. Oh
there you go.
So back up to your life now for a second. Tell me like where you came from and how you started this, like your whole career and how we got to here and why do you live in Paris? And I just want to know.
I know it's very confusing. There's so many things that don't actually make sense. So yeah, I mean, in Elizabeth Gilbert's blurb pointed this out, that the book itself is like a mermaid. It's two halves, right? Yep. That are like stitched together. I literally didn't realize that until after it was published. But anyway, and I feel like that's very true of me too. So I've done a lot of comedy, stand-up, sketch, improv, running around doing make-believe with hilarious people. And then also I bailed out of that at some point when things were actually going quite well because I just like had this leftover. I literally just had like all these questions about Manet. Like I was working in New York and doing comedy and I got into a Ph.D. program at the U Chicago. And I kind of thought, well, there's comedy in Chicago. I'll go to Chicago because I can still do comedy. But, once I started my Ph.D., my comedy agent was like, everyone's dream is to like just like be an actor, or to like be a comic actor or performer. And like, you want to actually go to grad school at the same time. No, he's like, I'm never taking your calls again. Go jump off a cliff. So I just threw myself into this PhD program and became a very, that's a very serious world. And I wrote an academic book all about the history of actually comic art criticism. So art critics who whose criticism was caricature, like who made fun of art and understood it through comedy. So like there was still always an interest in this kind of thinking and a way that I've always believed that like, when you laugh and when things are comic, it's not leaving intelligence behind. It's a form of intelligence. And that runs through my academic work and the novel. But anyway, so I did this PhD and then I went off to Oxford for my first job after my PhD, which was a research fellowship. And I just like got the bug again and started doing comedy again. And I started doing improv and I was having so much fun with it, like just laughing till my whole body hurt, just having the best time. And like I'm a huge proponent of play, just playing, and that's what improv is. It's play. And then I got too pregnant, and I couldn't be in bars anymore, faffing around. So I literally, I was like weeks away from giving birth, and everyone was like, you're uncomfortable to be on stage with. Can you leave?" So I basically started doing improv alone at my computer with the novel. That's what it was. It was, it's very dialogical. The novel, there's a lot of scenes of people having conversations. That's me doing improv basically with myself, just playing both roles. And even this whole structure of the novel within the novel, it didn't come from like literary models. It came from an improv game, this thing called the Herald, which allows you to stretch a story out for a long time by returning over and over again to the same scenes. Yeah, the whole form really came out of comedy and like game playing and fun. But so that's how I ended up writing a novel, was just like being kind of torn between these two worlds. So it makes sense that it's, a book about a hybrid creature.
Wow. And why are you in Paris now?
So my specialty as an art historian was 19th century France. So it always made sense to come. And then my husband got a job opportunity here. So it made sense for us both professionally. And now it's actually kind of a strangely excellent place to be writing in English, because I'm so isolated. Like I don't spend any English. Like I save all my English. You know what I mean? Like I don't talk to anyone in English until I go up to my attic and write. And I feel like very fresh when I start to write. So it's actually been kind of lovely. I don't know, maybe I'll go crazy and feel too isolated and have to get some Anglophone, I don't know, vibes at some point. But right now it's kind of heaven. It's kind of great.
That's awesome. I've been like slowly putting together this little group of authors who have been on my podcast who live in Paris. And like every time a new Paris author I interview, I like put them on, I don't know. They've all been like meeting up. It's really fun. So I'm going to like add you to their little list.
Oh my God, do. Yeah, I definitely need friends. If I stay this isolated for much longer, I am going to get weird.
They're all different types of authors, but you all write great books.
I really I grew up in New Haven. I grew up on university campuses. Then I was at, grad school, whatever. And I do miss being around people who like kind of live and breathe writing, ideas. I mean, that sounds snotty, not ideas, but just like, I don't know, maybe dorks, just people with a specialty too. That was a real thing in the university world, is like this idea that people don't really talk about something unless or if they have an opinion about something, they've often read everything there is to say about it, so they know that what they're saying is the truth. And then you get out into the real world and you're like, wait a minute, everyone just has some like half-baked opinion? What's this? So I don't know. I kind of, at some point, maybe I feel like I'll have to come in from the cold and get back in the world of teaching or something. But for now, I'll just hang out at cafes with your acquaintances. That
Perfect.
sounds great.
Amazing. And are you writing another novel now?
I am writing another novel. Yeah. I'm like halfway through with this other novel, and it's a little bit different in that it's not maybe as like slapsticky funny, but I'm just trusting, like when I was an undergrad, I did a playwriting class, and I used to write stuff that I thought was really serious. And I was like, here's my one act about a literary magazine. And people would like laugh so hard at like what I'd written. So I'm going to just hope that even though my North Star with like every choice isn't what's going to make everyone laugh, it's still got like funny bones in it. So we'll see.
I know. I try to, I really like humor, and I tried to, not that I'm like super funny, but I don't know. I really appreciate it so much. And like you, like if I'm writing something that makes me crack up, like that's like the best day,
Oh, totally. Then if I find a writer who can make me laugh, they go in like a special box of just like, I'll find everything you've done. I'll support thank you. You know what I mean? I'm so into funny writers and like in awe of them.
I tried to write like a literary prose poem.
That sounds hilarious.
I don't, it actually probably would be now if I like judged it up, but I was like, oh, okay, I can do this. Like, this is how it's going to be. Like, I'm not going to have quote marks, and I'm going to like, but of course it doesn't work. Like only people who really feel and write that way can write that way. I can't just like, I don't know. I think it's all about like finding your voice, which like obviously you have, and it's so great. And it's like everything about this is so creative it's just like circles and circles of creativity, like swirling around.
I'm so glad you felt that way and had fun in my circles.
Yes, I had fun in your circles. I had fun in your circles. What do you like to read? Who are authors who do make you laugh?
Well, so I mean, I feel like the writer that made me go, wait a minute, like this is something I want to try to do is Evelyn Waugh. And even like just I think back to like something like Vile Bodies, which is a book that is a string of parties. You know, there's so many parties in American Mermaid, right? I love writing parties. I love parties. If there's anybody who wants to invite me to a party, I'll go. I'll go. But it's actually a meditation on the consequences of war, like, right? Which you only really understand at the end. These like jerk offs, like running around, losing each other and losing their money and losing, you know, it's actually about the kind of, I don't know, like many, like multidimensional consequences of this war and of their participation in it. And so early on, I knew with him that something was going on where I was dying laughing and putting the book down, but I was also really getting to things like, you know, getting to an understanding of history and again, of intergenerational relations and of just really profound truths about being a person in the world. And so like Patrick Melrose, the Patrick Melrose novel. So Edward St. Aubyn, who's, I'm reading his new one right now, which is like a very, like, it's a satire of literary awards, which I don't know, it's really funny.
That.
But the Patrick Melrose novels are so cutting and deep, and they're about a horrible, like toxic family event, but they make you laugh so hard. And so like Patricia Lockwood, I think, is like out of this world, like next level funny. I mean, it's talk about like hilarious poetry. I even like went back and dug into her poems, and I'm there for all of it. And her nonfiction is absolutely hilarious. Her essay in the LRB on John Updike is like chef's kiss, like hilarious. I was just reading a book. She was actually published in one like 1980s, but this is one that your listeners might not know. She's really well known in Ireland. Her name is Molly Keane, Keane. And there was like an Irish Times roundup of who were like the funniest authors were. They asked all these writers and like everyone name dropped her and I'd never heard of her. So I'm a couple chapters in. It's funny. It's also very dark. And there's a lot of stuff about Catholicism. Surprise. Oh. But
okay.
But it's great. It's like, yeah, I mean, whatever. I'll follow whatever leads anyone has for comic authors.
Have you read Nora Goes Off Script by Annette Bell Moynihan?
No, I haven't.
Okay, you have to read that. It won't take long, but she has that same smart, funny thing going.
It's awesome. And that goes off script. Sounds good.
Nora Goes Off Script. It's really funny. And the Catherine Newman book too. I feel like you would maybe like those too. So start on those. Let me know what you think.
Excellent.
If I'm on the right track. So in terms of your process and all of that, do you just like sit there and think what's funny or like did you divide your time with like today I'm going to work on the novel in the novel and today I'm going to do a dialogue scene, or how did it go?
I think that so actually a lot of it I started writing it when I was writing my academic book, which was like, so I'd be writing this stuff that had to be like intensely footnoted and argued and, you know, every inch of it had to be so hard fought. And then I would just, instead of, especially when you're working in archives, like when you're doing research, to get into the Bibliothèque Nationale, you have to like, it's this insane process. And you have to like check everything and swipe a card and like, you'll never get back in if you get out. So to take a mental break from that kind of writing, I just switch over to another document and go like stretch my legs in the novel. So when I was working on those two books at the same time, weirdly, those two books are like, they're like twins we were in utero, you know, they kind of like fed each other, maybe fought for resources. It's a better way of putting it. So, and then once I've finished the academic book, I just like, I think having had the experience of doing academic writing and knowing how hard it is, I'm just like so grateful for the blank bloody page. You know what I mean? I'm just like so happy to like go frolic. And so I've never like, even this next one that I'm writing, I don't want to jinx myself, but like, yeah, I don't know. It's just like, I just been going really fast because I'm like, there's no one here to tell me I can't say that or whatever. I mean, then it goes to readers and I get feedback and I get told I shouldn't say that or whatever. But I think once you've had it's like Forrest Gump with those braces on his legs, you know, like this is the first and last time. I've never compared myself to Forrest Gump before. I don't think I'll do it again. But I just had the image of like the little braces flying off his super strong legs because you've just, you know, you've been like trained so hard to do this thing that's like so much rigor.
Speaking of utero, so you mentioned when you were too pregnant to keep partying, how I'm assuming a child came after that.
Oh, yeah. There are two of them.
How has motherhood, you know, factored into your career and your writing and all of that?
You know what's crazy? And I think about the title of your podcast and like, It's so funny how they are such a time suck, obviously. Like I have to go pick them up in a minute and like swiftly deposit them with a childcare professional and go out to dinner. Thank you. But, for once. But no, I started writing this book like right before I had my child. And then I wrote it while I was, raising a small child. And I guess I'm fully not fully in control of how that happened. I don't know why. There's definitely something about having kids that makes you take your spare time really seriously and like, like do what you need to do for yourself in that time. And I do like all the time. I'm like, you guys are fine playing with string. I'm going to go write for a minute. Like, whatever, you're fine. I'm eating Play-Doh. I'm going to go write. But also, I think a lot of the questions in this book about personhood and about, how you're seen in the world and who you are and who you want to be and like gender, these issues of gender and genderedness and how women are represented. I have two girls. Those questions became really important and loud to me once I had these kids. So yeah, I mean, having kids is an impediment, and I'm lucky I've had good childcare, and also I live in Europe, and there's like a lot of support. But it didn't ruin my creative life. It like completely made it possible and deeper and better. So yeah, God, thank you, you little monsters, you selfish little twerps. Thank you.
That can be your next dedication.
Yeah, exactly. You made me so insane with sleep deprivation that it really sent my creativity into interesting places.
Yeah. Thank you, selfish little twerps.
Yeah, selfish little twerps.
Yeah.
Did I say that?
Yeah.
Whoops. Maybe I did have a margarita.
You did, but I love it.
Yeah. Zima.
Oh my gosh. Wow. This has been so fun. American Mermaid. So awesome. Thank you so much. And I'm so excited for this to come out.
Thank you for reading it. Thank you for laughing.
Yeah. Love it. I'll read anything you write.
It's such a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you. You too.
Have a great day. Thanks for listening to this episode of Moms Don't Have Time to Read Books. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Zibby Owens and at Moms Don't Have Time to Read Books. Also sign up for my newsletter at zibbyowens.com and sign up for my virtual book club and meet lots of authors on Zoom every other week. Thanks so much to Steve and Ryan at Texture Sound for the sound editing. And thank you to Morning Moon Productions for providing this fantastic intro and outro music.